A source tells ABC News a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas could be announced at any time. An Israeli government official says the two sides have agreed on the framework of a deal. The first phase of the agreement is said to include the release of 33 hostages taken by Hamas. In exchange, Israel would release hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, and fighting in the Gaza Strip would stop for at least 6 weeks. Israel says it believes most of the hostages being held in Gaza are still alive, though Hamas hasn't confirmed that. 3 are believed to be Americans. Before that deal's official, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has to get the agreement approved by his security cabinet and his wider government and allow time for legal objections. ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge is in Tel Aviv with more on that. So, Tom, what are you hearing about the timing of this potential deal, and what are the major points of contention at this point?
Yeah, Diane, we're hearing from 2 sources here in Israel now that say that Hamas has given its green light to this potential deal. The sources saying we are very close and they hope there will be a deal today or tomorrow, but it's not quite a done deal. And US officials are stressing that there is some haggling still going on. We're also seeing a draft negotiating outline. It's not the final deal. There are gaps in it, but it gives us a real insight into the complexity of this initial phase of the deal. 6-week ceasefire. We knew about that months ago. 33 hostages potentially released. But this draft negotiating framework speaks to the fact that the 33 hostages, not all of them would be alive. Israeli officials believe and hope that most of them are alive. It would mean only women, including female Israeli soldiers, children, elderly males and sick males, but not male Israeli soldiers. And it would be a phased release of the hostages. So we're talking about potentially, and this is just according to a draft negotiating framework, maybe 3 hostages on the first day, maybe another 4 a week later, and then 3 every week beyond that. And it would be linked to huge amounts of humanitarian aid flooding into Gaza and, of course, an unspecified number of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails being released. You know, the number of Palestinian prisoners in this draft deal that will be released is contingent on how many Israeli hostages, what category of Israeli hostages would be released in the deal. So it's not a done deal right now, but it's looking close. There is cautious optimism right now.
So if they do finalize an initial deal, Tom, is it likely the Israeli government will support it, or could it face opposition there too?
Well, there's 2 things here, Diane. There's the Israeli government, and then there's Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet. We believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet will sign off on the deal, the majority of them. There is going to be at least one dissenting voice, a hardliner, the security minister here, who's already speaking out against it, but it will go through. We can't say really whether or not, in the longer term, Prime Minister Netanyahu's government will stay together. But that will depend also on what happens after the 6 weeks, maybe. Because, you know, this is another crucial thing about what is being negotiated right now, is that it is a 6-week ceasefire with 33 hostages released in that initial phase of the deal. Now, the framework we've seen talks about a potential 2nd and 3rd phase where the remaining hostages could be released and the ceasefire would be prolonged and there would be conditions around that. But what the framework that we've seen implies is that none of the real nitty-gritty, the detail of phase 2 or 3 has been negotiated at all, and only really those talks would begin once the initial phase of the ceasefire would start. So, look, yes, it's looking very likely we're getting closer and closer towards that potential first phase of the deal. Real uncertainty about what it would mean for phases 2 and 3 and the longer-term future in Gaza, and whether or not this would turn into a permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. Diane?
All right, ABC News Chief Foreign Correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge in Tel Aviv, thank you.